Oh hey, didn't see you there. You currently caught me doing some really cool shit. Ooh. Ooh. If you haven't guessed already, we're going to be working on the shoulder toss, which is a really, really hard toss, so this might take a minute to explain. Okay, so when you're doing the shoulder toss, basically, you're going to want to have, let me switch guns here. Much better. Yeah. Okay, so when you're doing the shoulder toss, you mainly just want to start out with your dominant hand and the gun and just learn how that momentum works. And basically it looks kind of like this. As you're throwing, your wrist kind of flicks as you throw the gun backwards. And that wrist flick is very crucial because it's going to make the gun come up and around and over your shoulder. Without the wrist flick, it's just going to go straight up and back down. So just kind of practice that a little bit. Just make sure you get that. Understand how that momentum works. How you want to use this downward swing to toss the gun. So, also another thing to make sure, when you're going into this toss, make sure your finger is not grabbing the trigger. So as you're swinging, take that finger out and let it rest on the side there. And you're kind of holding it loosely because you want to have more control with your wrist as you toss. And as it's coming up and behind, you basically just kind of want it to slip out of your hand. And as it's getting further here to this point, you want to pivot your finger from the side here to the top. Or at least that's how I do it, because it helps with the flick. It helps make sure it's going in one direction. So again, just let your arm come down, then the momentum swing this way, pivot your finger to here, flick your wrist. Real quick, just another quick little reminder, it's a good idea to have something like a couch or a bed that you can stand in front of to practice stuff like this. That way if you drop your gun, it doesn't damage the gun or anything that the gun hits. So this is what I'll be using today, is just our good old living room couch. Alright, so now we're going to get into the actual tossing part of this. And again, just want to reinforce, it's a good idea to have a couch or a bed with which to practice over, so that when you toss, if you drop the gun, it doesn't hit the floor and damage the gun or potentially your floor. Here we go, same sort of thing, just practicing that momentum, but now we're going to put it into action. And this is going to be a little hard. You're probably going to drop the gun a few times, and that's okay. You just want to get used to the movement as you're tossing. So, and as you can see, it did one full rotation as it came around. That's how you know you got a good flick of the wrist as you do it. And make sure that as you're doing this, see how it went off that way? Try to maintain that it's coming up over to the exact same spot here where you can grab it every time. Like that. Again, make sure you're flicking your wrist to get that full rotation. Just keep tossing, and eventually, not like that, eventually it will just become muscle memory. One thing that I noticed that I failed to mention, as you toss, your shoulder naturally wants to lift as you're tossing, and your body kind of pivots. Just like that. Now make sure you switch over to your left hand, and make sure your left hand is just as well trained. That way when you get into doubles, double tossing, and those sorts of things, you'll be able to do it. Same thing, just practice the motion. Try to get used to the momentum before you do any tosses. That way you don't throw the gun backwards or something by accident. Here we go. Keep in mind, my left hand is stupid, so I'm probably going to mess up a lot more with my left hand. But that's okay, that's just a part of the learning process. See, I'm going way too far over. I'm flicking my wrist too much. and it's either flying out in front. See, I tried to compensate by flicking less, and it ended up over here. Remember, you want it to be here. That way when it comes around, you can catch it and you're prepared to keep spinning. See, as you can see, I'm having a lot more trouble with my left hand. Naturally. Alright. Real quick, another thing that you can also do once you've gotten used to it is not only catching it with the same hand, but catching it with the opposite hand. So you kind of already naturally know where it wants to go, and you can see it as it's coming over. So all you got to do is bring your other hand out there. Now this is a little trickier to do because you're kind of going in a longer motion. It takes a little longer to get to the gun. So you're kind of anticipating when the handle is where you need it to be. But unlike the hand you're throwing it with, it doesn't have the advantage of already being there. Make sure you practice with your left hand too. Over the shoulder, catching it with your right hand. Just like that. And be sure that you get good enough that you're not catching it like this, or like this, or like this, but you want to catch it here. That way you can get right back into spinning. I want to thank you guys for watching, and as you can see, this was just as much of a learning experience for me as it was for you, as that's not a trick that I'm not too familiar with, but I went through the steps on how to kind of show yourself, how to teach yourself, and how to work with the momentum of the gun in order to get a trick down. If you guys had any trouble, any kind of troubles that I didn't go over, leave a comment down below. We may make a follow-up video just to kind of address those little problems. I know I had a few in there that I wasn't expecting when I did that, so.